All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. My name's Darren. I'm with Top Key. I'll be your host for today. We have three really great guests lined up for you today to talk about scaling your business to 100 plus units. There's a lot that can go right if you're doing that, but there's a lot that can go wrong, and we find that there are different inflection points whenever you're growing. So, wanted to talk to three operators here, just really get insights into challenges, what they faced, how they handled it, and hopefully give you some actionable tips as you're scaling your company. So, quick reminder, this is an interactive session, so feel free, any kind of questions that you have throughout the discussion, just drop them. You can send them as a Q&A, or you can even drop them into the chat. We love seeing the engagement. We will try to get to questions as they come through. If there are more questions than we have time for, no worries. We'll try to send out more information afterwards. But yeah, let's meet the guests next. So we have three really great operators here. We have Matt Floyd, owner of Stay Classy Homes, Kyle James, founder of Atomic Stays, and then Patrick Switek, owner of the co-host company. So maybe to kick things off, would love for you guys to just introduce yourself and share a bit about your background and what brings you to the discussion today.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. Matt Floyd, co-owner of Stay Classy Homes, along with my partner Craig, and I got into real estate and vacation rentals. I was working W-2. We were trying to find some way to create some passive income, so we started buying our own properties, and we loved the concept of setting them up and designing them, and murals and really fun colors and all the fun things you get to do with vacation rentals. So we loved the concept. We were taking our extra income, buying some of those properties, rich dad, poor dad, bigger pockets, got inspired by all of that. And that organically grew into a small management company managing our own properties. And then other people started to ask us to manage for them as well. So it was a very organic growth into management for us. We quit our jobs officially about 2.5 years ago. My partner and I did. And we've been running the business full time for that period of time. And since then, we've scaled up to about 75, 80 units under management. A lot of those are houses in San Diego. That's where we're based, and we love to continue growing here. And I'm the small fish on the panel with Patrick and Kyle. Great friends. I've learned a ton from them. We all share ideas, and I think we'll talk about how helpful that is as you're growing and trying to overcome those obstacles along the way. But that's where we're at. And Kyle, I'll pass over to you.
Awesome. Yeah. To that point, we actually meet quite a bit and I'll chat with other operators too. And it's been huge in our ability to grow. So that's our first tip of the day for sure. But my name's Kyle James. Based out of Denver, now based out of Denver and Vail. I started in this industry. I was doing a W-2 job during COVID, selling software. And then I started listening to a lot of Bigger Pockets, understanding short-term rentals, understanding the real estate space, and decided, let me dip my toes in this. I actually took a job with a property management company working for about $15 an hour on the side of my W-2 job, just to kind of see what it looks like to manage properties and be in that industry. I did a couple arbitrages. I bought a property and I started making livable kind of money off of those things. And I decided, our first month that we bought that property was like right after COVID. So right when people started traveling, it was June of 2021 or July. My property that I bought for $525,000 to $20,000 in income. I said, I'm rich, and I quit my job. And I was not rich, little did I know. But then from there, I just have we went all over the country. Then we brought it back to just being Colorado. And as of today, I'm a co-founder now. I ended up merging with another business a few years back. We're at 210 properties split between three distinct markets of the greater Denver metro, Vail Valley, and Winter Park. Yeah. Go ahead, Patrick.
I guess it's my turn now. I love both of these gentlemen up on stage here. I'm honored to be with you guys. It's always fun talking things, and I always recommend getting part of a community or going on these webinars because you really learn through osmosis how other people have built their businesses, and you can learn from everybody, no matter how big or small they are. So currently, I'm Patrick. I'm the owner of the co-host company. I've acquired 3 property management companies. I've consulted, I'm probably 24 at this point almost. It seems like somewhere around there. I should count that. So I've seen transactions happen in the buy and sell side quite a lot. And I'm in acquisition number 4 currently. Currently residing at 125 units. But I'm always trimming the fat and just trying to get the best of the best, and just focusing on luxury and just focusing on a very luxury experience. That's very much where I've been. My background is I got into this space by working at Avance. I was a product manager at Avance, so it's very fitting to this conversation because I firsthand saw them scale from 200 to 1,000 plus units, and I saw all parts of the business being impacted by scale and what are the limitations of scale and what things roadblocks and all that kind of stuff. So that was a really great inspiration point that kind of brought me into getting laid off during COVID, and then venturing out and buying my own units, and then eventually getting into management. So yeah, I'm happy to talk on all things scale, and excited to be here.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, you guys bring a really good perspective, and yeah, this is something we get asked about a lot. So excited to see some of the answers that come up here. So maybe let's really just dive right in. So, when you're starting off, you got a handful of units. As you grow, when was the first time you noticed operational systems breaking down? Like what broke first, and how did you address that?
Yeah, I can jump in and start. I think what I see kind of a trend that I see over and over within the industry, and that's when people jump in and get started. They're either a solo entrepreneur or they have a partner like we did. You're able to manage on your own probably about 15, 20 units on your own. So if there's two of you, maybe you can get up to 30 or 40 on your own and do all of it, right? You can do all the guest communication, you can all the vendor coordination, the cleanings, the maintenance coordination. You can do the finances, you can run the business, you can do all the compliance. But by the time you get to that 20 per person or so, you start to max out and you start to get stressed out because you're pulled into all these urgent situations all the time. And that's, I'd say, where the first kind of threshold or inflection point is, where we start to recommend to people to think about, okay, if you want to continue scaling, you're going to need some help, right? And whether that is on-site help in your market or virtual help, which I'm a big advocate of VAs. We have a team of them. They've been amazing. And when we were considering leaving our W-2 jobs to do this full time, I said to my partner, we need to hire a team that's going to help us out with day-to-day operations, so we don't just quit our jobs and then hire ourselves for our own job and then end up working for ourselves, right? I think that's the common fallacy of entrepreneurship, is you can very quickly end up just working a job for yourself, as opposed to being an entrepreneur overseeing the business and overseeing the team that's running it. So that's where you have to start thinking about, who can I hire, instead of trying to figure out how do I solve all these problems. It's who can I hire that knows how to solve them. So I think that's the first inflection point. What
Yeah,
do you
I
guys
would
think?
agree. I made it to about 18 properties doing it all myself, and then hired a VA and a, US based employee all on the same day. And I would say the first thing that broke was me. Uh, for sure. When I got to about that point, I was kind of freaked. I was just like running around everywhere, freaking out, as I'm sure a lot of you will. And there's kind of those similar points you hit, I think, at like 18, and then again at like maybe 60-ish, and then again at like 110. And at each point, it all comes down to, finding good people, reiterating your systems, trying to figure out how to continue to delegate. And frankly, it's a 24/7, 365 business. As you're scaling, you have to find people that are willing to understand that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's like building a plane. Or wait, how is it? Building a plane while you're jumping out of. Wait, what was it? Jumping out of a plane, building a. I don't forgot what the.
Building it while you're falling off the
Build it
cliff,
while you're
right?
falling. You gotta build it, And so I think this business never stops. It never sleeps. First management company I bought, I didn't know what I was doing, and I bought 15 units, and I realized I paid money to get a job that was grossly underpaid, and I worked crazy hours. It was the worst experience ever, but also the best experience ever. And what I mean by that, because it made me realize, wow, people don't know how to run these businesses. When I say businesses, it's not even a business. It's just It's not, and that's why they burn out, and that's why they sell these contracts, right? And so what I've seen that time and time again, and I've seen, when you buy, what's cool about that is you can kind of adopt the best of all worlds and kind of see what works and what doesn't. And I think what I've realized is that everyone does things differently, and every market is especially unique and has different challenges. And I will say that, like for Joshua Tree, for example, we have to check the homes in between every guest stay. We can't rely on cleaners. That's just the way it is. The vendor pool is very tight. The best talent is pricey because they can charge whatever they want. This is not like another market. There are other markets where, for example, you can have 2 property managers for 200 units. That's not our market. So every market is going to have different hiring needs. But from a system scale perspective, there's breakage points I've realized. 2025 is usually when I say, like, yes, you can run 2025 with VAs and be chilling, but then you have to make a decision at 2025, and maybe you guys agree with me, to hire your first boots on the ground support, because otherwise there's very little boots on the ground support, and people sometimes will rely on cleaners. However, you need that extra person to really take that next step, like with inspector and somebody that can do like inspections, talk to owners, go to the homes for the owners and fix things that are beyond whatever. So it's just nice to have that person that can coordinate people and understand and know the homes. And that is like usually an operation manager, and that usually kind of gets you to like 50, 60, and then 50, 60, it just breaks again. And it's interesting because all the systems, like what I use for accounting, does not work. I mean, this is top key, so this makes sense. We have to get to top key because we're like, it's all in one. Like we can't have bill.com and then we have this thing. And it was just complicated. We needed a bunch of credit cards everywhere. Like it was too much. You needed to have one consistent system that could do everything. And that's why we got involved in top key. And there's other things that break too. Like, oh, what you do at 20 units does not work at 100 units, and it just naturally progresses like that. But at the end of the day, the most important thing when you're going into this, and I kind of will echo what both people said, you have to hire the best people, period. You hire the best people and everything works itself out, because those people will go through the thick and thin with you. Like, and that goes, my best hires I've ever made were the 2 VAs I made in the beginning, and they're still with me today, and they're the best. And that's why I was able to get through those times. So anyways.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that as well, I think Kyle mentioned it too. When you're growing and you're getting started, you're kind of taking whatever you can, right? You're taking contracts. Okay, that's not the ideal property, but I'll take that 1 or 2 bedroom, or studio. I'll take it at a lower management commission. I'll negotiate myself down. That's kind of what you have to do to get started. You have to get some momentum. You have to get some clients that are happy that you can use as references to sell your next client. So I think, if you're looking at it and saying, hey, I only want this amount of commission, I only want the most luxury properties, that's just not realistic unless you buy into them like Patrick did. But then you break a lot of your systems when you do that. So it's you kind of have to hustle to get that. But what happened with Kyle and myself is we spread ourselves out. I was in Nashville and Phoenix and San Diego and Hawaii and Orlando and Wisconsin, and you just have like these little bits here and there. And what ends up happening is you can't provide the level of quality that's going to get you to an excellent company if you're spread out too thin. So I think that's one thing Kyle probably learned as well, is that as we grow and as we scale, that we want to consolidate into a few markets where we know that we have enough scale to hire, to have the virtual staff, but also the in-market staff, that we can really double check make sure the cleaning quality stays really high, make sure that we have somebody that's able to go to the properties so the owners know that we're on site. That's where you're getting to the top tier management in that market. And so I think as we've all grown, we've all consolidated over time.
Yeah, that kind of ties into, so, and Kyle, this is something that you had mentioned. You said, the first thing that broke with me, and I think that probably resonates with a lot of people. And I think especially everyone, you start this business, everyone's entrepreneurial, everyone's multi-talented, you can do a lot of different things. And so you try to do everything because you're like, ah, I can do this. I'm good at this. I can handle it. Um, but then Patrick, you were mentioning it's like operations manager. That was the first boots on the ground. Matt, you just kind of referenced that too. I'd be curious, what was the first like in market hire that you made, or maybe even just the first, full-time hire that you made? Not necessarily a VA, but first full-time hire. And then what did that open up for you? Like what did that allow you to do in terms of progressing and scaling?
I mean, my first hire was really just a guy with a lot of free time. Like it was just somebody who I thought was smart, who had a lot of free
Oh,
time,
was this a guy
and
off the street? Like, would you make it
he
sound like
he
it's
was
not?
off. I mean, he didn't have any background in our space. He didn't have any skill set, and he had some skill set in renovation and like doing flips, but had no understanding of how to do anything. Um, Him and I just meet up at 8 a.m. and hang out all day, and he learned quickly, and he cared, and he had a lot of time, and uh, I think that's honestly important. I needed in the beginning, you need a jack of all trades. You need somebody who is just smart and willing and able to help, at least from my experience. And then over time, unfortunately, that person more more often than not actually has no place left at the company because you start to find these specialists who take over different areas of the business. Um, Luckily, he learned enough while he was here to start his own business, and it's doing really, really well. And that's like all I could ask for what happened with that situation. So that was awesome, right? Like he scaled up with us, didn't make sense anymore. He started his own business. It's going great. So that was perfect. But that was our first hire. I mean, just somebody that could really just do it all with me. And then a virtual assistant as well to help us to start to organize, to do like all the things we knew were happening so often, right? Like ordering supplies and doing claims and some of these things that are just happening in real time, where if him and I are both out dealing with one-off situations, somebody has to kind of make sure that toilet paper gets ordered.
Yeah, I think when you really think about business, right? Because I think that's really the core thing here, and I think that's what we've been talking about is like you go from a solopreneur to a business owner, and a shift happens, right? And all of a sudden, you have to learn all these business things like leading people, and then there's employees, and employees also, they're the worst thing, but they're also the best thing. If you get a bad one, it's hell, and if you get a good one, it's heaven, and it's the best feeling in the world. And I think hire. Yeah, I forgot where I was trying to go with this. I had a point, but I what was? Can you iterate the question?
Well, the
Yeah,
question,
yeah. Talking about like first hires,
Oh yeah,
yeah, and what that unlocked for you. It's one thing
yeah.
to, yes, there's benefits in that it does that, but usually the benefit is also that
Yeah.
it unlocks your time to do other things.
Right. I think my best well one of my like core hires was the integrator hire. I know there's a lot of people that will relay this information as well. Finding your plus, the second best, the guy that can really get you to the next level. For us, we've met this girl. She had no experience in hospitality, similar to Kyle. I think a lot of times you just have the itch. I don't know how to explain it, but it's you just have the hospitality itch. You don't necessarily have. Sometimes people have the skill set of like, oh, work for hotels and all this stuff, but a lot of times you could take somebody that was a mom and make them an incredible employee that does really well in this space, because hospitality is, once again, it's you either have it or you don't, is kind of what I see. There's certain people that the people that are no longer in this space are the ones that were super profit driven, number driven. They don't think about the people aspect as much. But integrator hired her. She was amazing. Unfortunately, she fell into mental health issues that's not even all related with work. We are hiring a CEO right now, so that's going to be our plus two. The second, you want a second man or second woman to help run the show, and what that really means is you're the visionary, right? So a lot of times when you start this business, you're somebody that can see the vision of where you're going, or you maybe you're an integrator, or somebody that really can put the vision and make it into reality. but you need each other to be able to really grow and scale. Matt, I think, is Craig your integrator
Yeah, he was at the start, and then we're hiring
now?
more. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's got that integrator. You need somebody that is not doing the sales, is doing the work and loves doing the work to like get things in motion. If that makes sense. So I heard this quote from Patrick Davis, and he said, if you want a successful business, hire the number two guy at the best company in your space or your industry. And I took that to heart. And so, it's still in progress, but things are looking really good. I'll have more information on that, but the more of the story is hire your number two. Find that person that's going to be your ride or die. Incentivize them with equity. Um, there's ways to do it, and obviously make sure that they're a good hire or a good person. If you work within, then that's okay, but they're going to basically organize a lot of stuff and take off a lot of off your plate on the delivery side, so that you have more on the sales and marketing side, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all kind of saying the same thing, right? Similar with Kyle, right? Somebody that is just able to dive in and get the work done, right? Because a lot of the day-to-day of running the business is repeatable, right? You have guests asking the same questions. Can I check in early? What's the Wi-Fi? Can I check out late? And you get that question, as you scale, you get that question a million times. So it's not difficult to answer that, but somebody's got to do it. So
Yeah.
I think for us, we did a little bit different we did a little different than these guys, and we were able to scale up to about 75 units with just a virtual team. With no, I mean, I shouldn't say just virtual. Myself and my partner were the boots on the ground. The fact that there were two of us meant that we had enough that we could go out in the field and we could do the walkthroughs and we could do what we needed to do on site. So that allowed us to scale the company with virtual help. And the first big hire that we had was our team lead VA, who worked at a company much larger than ours. And I think that is a big epiphany for us, that when we started hiring people that knew what the company should look like at twice the size of where we were, then they get you there, right? They come in and they say, hey, why don't we have Slack? This is what we should be using. Hey, we need some kind of a project management software to keep track of all the maintenance items. We use, and then we'd say, okay, great. What did you use? Oh, well, we used Monday. Okay, great. Here's the subscription. We'll pay for it. You set it up, right? But I think when you start to bring in people that know how to have a business at a higher scale, then they will lead you there as far as the operations go. And that lead VA has since hired the other 4 VAs on our team and hired them, trained them, keeps track of their schedule, and leads that virtual team. And all of those team members come from companies that are at the scale that we're at or higher. So we don't have to explain to them what needs to be done. They come right in. We give them the core work, and then we start to add additional responsibilities onto their plate. Now that we're at the scale that we're at, we were deciding, do we hire for operations or do we hire for sales full time in San Diego? And we decided to go sales because sales is the lifeblood of your business, right? And we had been doing it all up to that point. We had had success, but we were not able to respond as fast as we wanted to a lot of inbound leads coming in. So we hired sales full time with a base salary and a commission structure, a profit share essentially on contracts. He came in May of this year, and has added probably 15 new clients and contracts to us since May. So he's really accelerated the speed of growth. And now that margin that he's created is, we're actually in the process today of hiring our director of operations, who's going to take a lot of the day-to-day work off of our plate. And so we decided to go sales, then operations. And I think these guys focused a little bit more on operations than sales afterwards for different reasons. And then the last thing I'll say is just a couple of books that had a huge influence on this thought process. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, an amazing book talking about working on your business, not in it, is an amazing book. Just boring title, but a really good book. Who Not How is a great one, and Buy Back Your Time. All three of those books have a similar concept of how we've all been able to get where we're at and continue to grow.
And I'll jump in with one more thing there. I can't tell you how to do it, right? Whether you go operations or sales first, but I can tell you, to Matt's point, that if you have enough sales and you're giving enough effort to follow through on the promises that you're making to your clients, you will be successful. Like, we had no idea what I was doing. I was making promises to everyone. Every single one of them got done because I'd be staying up till 4 in the morning to make sure, driving to the property or doing anything like that. So I'm not out here saying lie to anyone, but I am saying that this business is extremely operationally heavy. There's a lot of silos along this business. You're not going to have all of them handled day one. And if you want to compete, you're going to have to tell people you can do things and then figure out a way to fill it, to make sure that that happens on the back end sometimes. And at least for me, when I brought in some operational people, that allowed me to make sure that we had enough sales coming in. For me, what that looked like, I wasn't really in the marketing space or anything. I was going to 2, 3, 4 meetups every week. And I was just meeting and meeting and meeting people. And I think I brought on 65 homes myself in our first year. In the last year, I brought on 117 homes with no salespeople. Now we just brought on our first salesperson. And then on the flip side, seeing what the salesperson has done, I'm like, man, I'm an idiot for not bringing him in sooner. He's killing it. He's doing so great. So it's hard to say, but I can say that if you want a surefire way to have success, you got to make sales. I mean, go out and do it too. Like, you don't have to be really cute about it. You don't have to have a big CRM. You just have to meet people, have a good product. Basically, if you meet enough people and have high enough reviews, you'll grow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of like focusing on where your strengths are, because you can fill in those gaps, but then you're going to need other people that are talented, that have experience, that have been maybe, at larger operations, that know what it looks like, know what great looks like. So kind of stepping back, it kind of sounds like, you talking about sales, talking about operations. What would you say are just like the key systems or key processes that uh, you would want to systematize? Maybe it's you doing it, maybe it's someone else, but these are the key things to really systematize, figure out. It's the opposite end of the spectrum of, oh, I'm just going to figure it out, fly by the seat of the pants, and you could probably get it done, but it's the things that really we want to have dialed in, like all the systems, all the processes. For you guys at different stages, what did that look like, or what does that look like? What would you recommend?
I'll speak towards one, which is obviously for this is not like a plug to Top Key, but your accounting, your finance, it is way easier to have perfect from the start than it is to try and backtrack later in. So I had an accountant at one point within my business. That accountant actually tried to leverage his position to gain equity in the company. We decided I didn't want to offer it to him. When he left the company, he also left our books in shambles, to the point where I was then, to make sure we didn't lose clients, I was covering the cost of every expense for every property. It ended up being over a 6-figure mistake for myself, to the point where I almost ended up wanting to close down the company. That's actually how I ended up finding a partner, because I said, before I close this down, let's see if there's any great people out there I could partner with that know this space really well and can help me out of this hole. But God, if I'd have had a Top Key from the beginning or something like that, not only the hundreds of thousands, like $100,000 plus that I lost, but I remember a day like 4 in the morning at my computer trying to put together these accounting sheets, like almost in tears, with my head laying on this desk, right? So, and that is such an easy part. Not to mention, if you ever look to sell your company, having those books clean, they're going to need at least 2 years. So if you're trying to backtrack that and shimmy it together, well, you got 2 years from that day on before you could ever sell anything. And you can't get loans as easily. You're not going to be able to provide numbers to homeowners as easily. And it's a trust thing as well. We get a lot of clients that come to us and say, hey, my manager's been doing their accounting on Excel sheets, and like, we just don't know where the money's at. And you guys, have a really great platform and a really great CPA company. So I highly, in any business, recommend that you get the accounting dialed in from day one. And it overpay for it. Don't try and use like a $200 a month bookkeeper and just think that they're going to do a great job. It's not going to work.
Love the
All right, I'll
plug
jump in
there.
next.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice, Kyle. I mean, we switched to Top Key recently, just to, just to make sure we didn't have leakage. That was the main reason we came over, and now we're using a lot of the other tools as well. But when you're talking about number one, you're the fiduciary for your clients' money, right? There's a lot of responsibility there. If you're managing versus co-hosting, is a little easier where they get the funds. It's a little bit different there. But we're doing full management, so we're taking in a ton of income, especially during high season, and we need to make sure that it gets out to the clients properly, that they're the most important to get out. And then if we're making mistakes, we're eating that ourselves. So just reiterating from Kyle that the cleaner you can get with tracking these transactions and making sure that you're getting all of them assigned appropriately will really help your margins out. Otherwise, you're looking at it and saying, "Hey, I have a great business, but why is my bank account always so low at the end of the month?" That could be a huge reason why you have leakage in different areas. But just, as far as systems, right? Your core systems, your PMS. I remember when we switched from, what was it called?
Hospitable.
It was Guesty for hosts, which was the light
Your Porter.
version of Guesty. And it had a different name back then.
Your
but,
Porter.
Your Porter, right? And it was a really simple platform. It was great. It got us up to 20, 25 properties, very basic PMS, property management software. And then when we made the upgrade to Guesty, was much more expensive, but it allowed us to then view things at a scale where we said, okay, now we can go up to 500 or 1,000 units and manage it within this system. So that's one thing where switching from one PMS to another when you're already at scale is a huge lift. So that's probably my biggest advice is if you have a vision of going from 20 to 50 to 100, pick a PMS that will get you there early on and learn how to use it really well. Because as you grow, you're going to have different integrations that are coming in, and you want to have one that is powerful enough to be able to handle your company at the scale that you're trying to get to. So that's probably the biggest and most important, and was a big change for us. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah. I stayed with Hostfully. I didn't really change. I know a lot of people change to bigger, that's what they always try to sell me. They always come up to me and they say, we all know how Guesty and Hostaway are. They're sharks. In a good way, they're trying to get their money. I get it. But they hound me and they're like, "Hey, when are you making that switch? You have such a, low PMS. You should go and upgrade." And for me, my philosophy has been a little different. And this is kind of, property management software is the core of everything you do, right? I think a lot of times with these property management softwares, I think they try to be everything for you, but then also they become a master of none. If you guys ever heard of that, so like, if you try to become everything, you can't really do everything well. So you just do everything average. And so I rather have a PMS that does what I needed to do at the core, which is don't give me double bookings, maybe messaging out to guests, basic calendar stuff, and being able to get all the bookings in one place. Great. Now, if I want a better pricing software, I'm not going to use Guesty for pricing. I rather just go and get Price Labs or Wheelhouse. If I want, a damage waiver, I'm not personally. I don't think going to Guesty for the damage waivers, maybe, but I rather just go safely or whatever. But I get the idea of making it all into one. But I also see the value of being able to kind of add, all the different things that you need depending on where you're at. Like for example, we have open phone. I think that was actually one of the biggest changes is Slack, open phone, and money.com or Notion. What people switch it up. That tech stack right there is powerful. Open phone is some people run their business on WhatsApp. Oh man, you get into open phone it's night and day. You can have multiple people on those phone numbers, and now they're responding to the guests, on your behalf. That was like night and day. It was amazing. And in Slack, of course, the way that we structure our things, and I think that makes us a little different. we have anything. So kind of rule of thumb, because I'm a systems guy, I'm a tech guy, right? I came from Avance. I have a tech background. I came from Avance as a product manager. So I was always thinking of solutions that we could build. The way I look at it is anytime that and I tell my whole team this, the leadership team, anytime that something goes through your phone, your personal phone, not anything business related, through your personal phone, you're bottlenecking. Because the moment that you're out, there's no way for somebody else to step in. And so we need anything that's like, for example, like if submitting receipts is a popular example, and I think that melds really well with TopKey, right? If you're having to send your receipts to somebody over text and then try to get that, somewhere else, you're bottlenecking the process by being the person that needs to receive that line of communication. And so that kind of defeats the purpose. Or if that ends up in your email inbox, it needs to be somewhere that's more public for your company, right? So we implemented Slack. That was a great solution at first, right? So all the receipts in one Slack channel. That worked for a bit. Then you start getting into 80 different properties and a lot of different things going on at once. And you're like, well, I need a better solution. That's where TopKey comes in. And that solved everything, which is awesome. Look, I know this is a TopKey webinar, so this is stupid, but you can watch my freaking podcast that I did with Jonathan. I am a big fan of TopKey. It's saved me so much time. It's paid itself back 10 times over. I highly recommend it. Not just saying that. I wouldn't say that if I didn't believe it. That in itself kind of consolidates stuff. But Slack, having owners on Slack for us has been instrumental, because now all of those day-to-day conversations, that's what takes up a lot of time for us managers, really, is the team's trying to go, like, they go to you about something that happens in the house. I'm like, well, talk to the person that's taking care of the house directly. But you can do that all in one place when you create a Slack channel for them to chime in. I can chime in if it's something that requires me, but most times it's the team chiming in and responding to that. And so that's been so much more effective for us. And I think in this business, there's so many moving parts and so many lines of communication that happens every single day. So the more that you bottleneck those communication channels, the less this might be preemptively answering another question, the more you're in the business. So
Yeah, that's a good call out to the bottleneck. That kind of ties into something I wanted to ask you guys about is like, what's something that you're running the business. I think the bottleneck situation is so easy to get drawn into because you're doing everything in the beginning, and eventually that creates these bottlenecks. And so, what's something that you stopped doing, or you pushed it to the team, but basically you personally stopped doing, and it opened the door. It either made things easier to scale, it made it easier for the team across any part of the business, not in, because I think that's a really important topic, and it's very actionable too, because people are going to listen and they're like, oh, I do that. I should probably stop.
Yeah, I've got a good one. I'll just go off of Patrick's. And I think identifying bottlenecks in your business is kind of what, like, as you're scaling, that becomes your job. Your job is to lead the team, to set the vision, set the culture, be excited, get everyone energized, but then identify the bottlenecks. And it's tricky sometimes because you have a certain way of doing things. Everyone has a certain habit, and you're doing it and you're doing it. And, eventually things start to break down. And that's when you got to dive in and say, okay, I need to go in on this and ask all these questions. I need to try to figure out what's going wrong. And is it because the system isn't keeping track of it? Is it because we don't have the right data points? Is it because we don't have somebody assigned to own that, which is a lot of times what the problem is that you don't actually have an owner and you're expecting the whole team to do it. And, they're on shift, they're off shift, right? Who's going to pass that along and who's going to own these things? So for us, it was the owner communication was a big one, where we wanted to maintain the owner communication with all the clients. And that means that there's so much happening on site. We know that we have a certain threshold where we need approval for repairs, and this happens all the time. The team comes to us and says, hey, we have this issue, the water heater blew out or whatever. It's an urgent issue. There's no hot water. Okay, got it. Now I'm going to craft a message, send it to the owner, wait for the owner's reply. Maybe go back to the team for more clarification. Hey, did we get 3 quotes here? Okay, we got 1. We need 2 more. Okay, let me know when those quotes come in. So you're the bottleneck. You're going back and forth and playing telephone. And that was big. And it was a little scary to say, okay, we use open phone as well. We're going to create a new phone number just for owners, just for our clients to reach out to the operations team. Now we maintain visibility over all of that communication. So I can see if there's something that's going sideways, I can jump in. But by trusting the team to say, only reach out to the owners when we really need to, and you need approval for something, and make sure, you got to train them on making sure that the communication is clear and that everything is prepped, and that you're only giving them information that they really need to make a decision. That comes along with training, and you learn that by the team making mistakes, and you train, and they make mistakes and you train. But that's what everyone does. You make mistakes. So that in itself, taking us out of the telephone and just being able to oversee that has been a huge change. Same thing with vendor coordination. I don't even pay attention to it anymore. I don't pay attention to the guest communication anymore because the team is handling it really well, and the quality is good. So as you grow and scale, you're able to train the team up, get them to the quality level that you're really looking for, and use KPIs to get there. And then you can pull yourself away from that task and free your time up to do higher value tasks.
Yeah, I would second all of that. I mean, anything that is, you know, typically you're talking guest communication, owner communication, but anything that is not planned, you want to get off your plate. Like, I don't like the idea of me being in a sales call and getting another call and having to deal with like a fire. So guest communication, first thing that we take off our plate, and then owner communication. I think what over time though, as we grew, in the beginning, it was very much me reading all the messages and giving a lot of feedback, and that's all very important. I continue to do that. But over time, what also becomes important is incentivizing and bonus structuring and creating structure around the way that they get paid to tie into that. So we also work off EOS, which is the E-Myth book that Matt was talking about. And every single Wednesday, we just got off it earlier this morning. We have a call. Everyone knows their numbers they're responsible for. Our communications team, our leader of our communications team, she is bonused based off what the score, monthly bonus based off of the communication score, as well as the actual review score itself. Our COO is also incentivized based off the review score itself. And so tracking that number, it's in the beginning, you really it's tough, right? Like if you lose a client, it's a huge deal. But over time, those numbers become much more important. Knowing that maybe you had one mistake. Like I was the worst proponent of this. We have 200 homes, we have one issue, and I'm freaking out on our team, right? And then as I take a step back and realize, wow, we have a 96.3%, approval rating on our guest comms. We've got a 4.89. Things are going really well here. Like maybe I should trust the team a little bit more. Continue to apply pressure. It's your business. It's your brand. You want them to do better, and continue to, but do it in a way where they don't want to quit, right? Like I used to be such, for lack of a better word, I was an asshole to my team sometimes. And then over time, I got better by understanding that that's not the best way to push people. Maybe just having a level-headed conversation with them and letting this one go and hoping better for the next time is the way to, and tracking those numbers, then making their bonus structure. I mean, that in itself, right? Everyone wants to make more money. You know what you have to do to make more money. We're all aligned. That makes it a lot easier.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. Maybe kind of wrapping up here, let's say another operator comes to you, say, I'm overwhelmed, trying to scale, we're stuck at 25, 50, 100, whatever they're stuck at. What advice, what's some quick advice you would give to someone who is trying to scale, but maybe they feel overwhelmed and they can't quite figure it out?
Yeah, easy one for me. Get around other people that are scaling. I mean, like we talked about at the beginning, we kind of organically created a group because we're all, all of us are struggling with the same problems, right? We're all solving the same problems within this business every day. And I think, of course, we've given a lot of advice. Hire the VAs, or hire some team members to help you out. Think about working on the business, not in it. But there's so many questions that go into, well, how do I do that? How do I find them? How do I vet them out? How do I train them up so that they stay with me and don't just leave? These are all really valid questions. And every one of us has gone through that process of solving for it, or still solving for it and still trying to figure it out. So get in those rooms. I've been in masterminds, that have been super helpful to get me to a certain point. And then, okay, let me go jump into this one. Okay, that gets me to the next point. You make friends within those groups. Like we did, we're going to the networking events, we're going to the conferences, we're making friends. And those friendships are so powerful that I can give Kyle or I can give Patrick a call anytime and be like, yo, I'm really struggling with this situation. What do you guys think? How would you handle it? And they're at a higher scale than I'm at, right? So I think all three of us are here because we want to share what we've learned with people that are just at that 2025, 10, 5, whatever you're at, right? We've all been there and we've all had those struggles, and we absolutely love to help people overcome them, because it's the best feeling in the world to see somebody have an epiphany that really changes their mindset and allows them to continue growing to that next level. So get around those people that are at the goal and at the place where you're trying to be. If you got to pay to be in the room, if you got to do some free work to be in the room, if you need to find a way to help them out or find a way to get engaged with those people and make friendships there, and that'll be a huge help.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, I will say, I know you keep saying, oh, you learn from the bigger guys. Dude, I still remember the time where you sat me down. You're like, dude, there's below the line and above the line. And I still remember that whole concept, which for everyone else, that's basically Matt was explaining something where teams in this business, it gets really stressful. And sometimes you think below the line, which is like, hey, this sucks, like screw this client, like non-productive conversation, but it's like you just want to vent. And then it's like, okay, cool. We went below the line. Let's go above the line now. And let's think of solutions to make this better. That was something that I took away. But once again, we all learn things all the time. I kind of will relay kind of what Matt said. Um, the thing about advice is that advice is timely. And so, if I tell you guys to do this one thing, it might not make sense because you haven't done something else. So everybody has their own situation that they're going through. First is identifying where you're at, and then figuring out, okay, well, where do I want to go, and then how do I bridge that gap, and what are some of the obstacles that can happen, and how can I get around those obstacles. It's a fancy way of saying you have to sit down and put a plan together. So like, I think that's like the big thing, is just being self-aware of your situation. I always like to start, just my advice, very generic advice to everybody here, is understand the end goal, right? When you hop into a car, you put in the GPS location, right? Where are you going? So you want to understand, where you're going. That's the first step. It's like, okay, I want to get to 100 units. Maybe 100 units is not it. Maybe it is making $50,000 net per month, whatever it is. Or becoming the best hospitality brand ever and having a 4.95 rating across 100 units. That's, crazy, but like you can have those goals like that. Those, keep dreaming. Those are great. And so, you want to find those goals and then find how to get to those goals and what are the things that are stopping you from getting there, and just really be thoughtful. Well, shoot, my reviews have been really bad. Or, hey, I've been doing all of the work. I don't have time for it. Okay, so if you don't have time for it, then let's work on that. And so now you can ask the right questions when you get into these rooms that Matt was talking about. And that really goes full circle to helping you achieve what you need to do.
Yeah, I'll give you guys kind of two answers. On the tactical side, I would absolutely agree with both these guys, especially Patrick, when it comes to having a plan. I didn't start with a plan, right? Looking back on it, you'd probably be a lot less overwhelmed if you started only taking on great properties at great percentages. Now, that being said, you're new in the game, right? So you're going to have some good relationships there to get those homes. But you definitely can, it's less headaches per home. I think there's some tactical advice there. But the reality is, and how I've been able to grow, is that, personally, I'm at 200 plus homes, 15 plus employees, and I'm overwhelmed still, right? Like always, you're always going to be overwhelmed. I like to remind myself that when I started this business, I didn't tell people this is going to be easy. I told them this is going to be something that has great upside for my future. They didn't tell me it was going to be easy. So why, now that I'm overwhelmed and it's going really well, do I expect for it to be easy? Like, it was never supposed to be easy. The idea is that it sets you up for the rest of your life. It puts you in a different position. It allows you to leave your job. I've gone to 3 weddings in 6 weeks and 2 family vacations. Now I'm working the whole time, but I'm able to go wherever I wanted. Those are the reasons I got into it. I didn't get into it so that I could just sit back and everything works itself out. That's not what entrepreneurship is, in my opinion. So I would say, like, take a step back and realize that, like, yeah, it's hard, but it's fun, right? Like, this is the life you chose. It's always going to be hard. There's different types of hard. So I'm okay with being overwhelmed. I'm okay with being, it being hard. And I just remind myself that, like, that was always the plan. We're here now.
You signed up for it. I mean,
Yeah,
if you want to get
exactly.
your paycheck and, have a weekend, then there's jobs like that.
Well, I
Yeah.
think all three of us, right? I mean, I think all three of us, we probably could take the foot off the pedal and stop trying to grow so fast, right? And stop trying to push to improve. I mean, I went on a month-long vacation for a wedding this year, and I stopped pushing, right? The team just kind of took care of everything, and everything was going smoothly. And I had a bit of an epiphany that I'm saying, okay, my job is to identify where the bottlenecks are and push, right? And push. But if I don't do that, it's okay. Things will run smoothly. But I think that as an entrepreneur, you're always kind of have that itch to push. What can I do to improve this area or that area? And it's a two-sided thing, because on one hand, your brain is saying, oh man, we still have so much more to do. And I think that's what some of the overwhelming feeling comes from. But on the other hand, it's really important to look back at where you were a year ago or 2 or 3 years ago, and just look at where your business was and how much you've learned in that time frame. And it gives you a lot of appreciation for how much you've grown, and how much the business has grown, and how much the employees have grown as part of it. And that's the exciting thing, is you're creating this organism that's all growing together and reaching everyone's personal goals as well as the business goals. And just enjoying the journey is really important, as opposed to saying, hey, I'm going to be happy when I get to that destination. It's the journey is the fun part, and solving the problems every day. If you just got to be, enjoying that and saying, okay, what's the next problem? Let me go dive into the next problem and see what I can do to improve the business 1% today. That's what I try to do every day.
I love that. That's a great way to wrap up. So yeah, that wraps up the webinar. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. This is super valuable. We're going to be sharing this afterwards as well. But yeah, I know that there's a lot of very actionable advice, which is always our goal here with these webinars. Before we close, yeah, can you guys quickly say where can people reach out to you if they wanted to, or just connect with you or follow
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram, Stay Classy Airbnb, guys. And reach out there. Matt at Stay Classy Homes is my personal email. And then we also we run the $1 Million Host Mastermind as well, where we're actually helping to coach and teach these. And I know these guys do coaching as well. So we're all here to help, and happy to share what we've learned. I'll put it in the chat as well, just like Kyle did.
Yeah, I just dropped it in the chat as well. And
Instagram's great.
feel free to, if you guys reach out through that, like, if you really want to talk, if you reach out through that DM, I read every one of them. So I'll probably see it anyway.
Yep, same here. IG is the best. So
Nice. Cool. Yeah, and then for anyone who wants to look at automating financial operations, automating receipts, getting rid of those bottlenecks, just getting more profitable per unit, eliminating leakage, reach out. TopKey's here to help. You can see what our customers say about us at topkey.io/customers, or you can reach out to me, Darren at topkey.io. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining, and for everybody in the audience, thank you for watching, and that wraps it up. Thank you.
Thanks for having us,
thanks
Darren.
for having us. Take care,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.